Number one ranked New Zealand v Fiji. Big game here coming up. Miles, my first question for you. What are your feelings about New Zealand's chances here?
Mate, I think New Zealand deserve a bit more credit than they're actually getting at this point in time. It's just a bit more of I think the question you should be asking me is how do they go all the way? Because I think we saw on the weekend that they've clearly got the best forward pack in the World Cup, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, maybe you could make an argument for Tonga. I just think Australia's forward pack is a little too small. They got Joey Manu playing the position he was born to play, clearly, and two of the best halves in the comp. I mean, we saw Jarome Hughes against Ireland. He was absolutely unstoppable, and we made a TikTok video about that. Go check that one out. But yeah, New Zealand don't even need to worry about Fiji, in my opinion. Yeah, Fiji have got some nice players. They come from, a good history. But I just think that New Zealand are going to have too much class, and it's going to be a second World Cup victory for New Zealand. I backed them all the way. Can't stop now, mate.
That was one of the most arrogant responses I've ever heard. I did some digging just to see if New Zealand does have the gimme here, because New Zealand in the past has thought they had a gimme as well against Fiji. 2017 World Cup finals. New Zealand rolled up against Fiji. Lost that game 4-2. Two penalty goals to one. Some vintage champagne rugby league right there. Probably a wet game. Probably going to be a wet game this one as well. So, you can't write Fiji out right now. They've got some class there. I mean, look, on paper, obviously New Zealand are going to get this done. But the game isn't played on paper. It's played on the field. And who knows? Api Coruscant, Viliame Kikau, Mike Acevo, these guys might have something to say about it.
Yeah, it's cool. I actually slipped the weatherman a 50, so he told me it's going to be partly cloudy but good conditions. So with New Zealand,
they say good conditions, but it's England. Like, it's a different sort of metric, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you could turn up and it just be absolutely pouring, or it'll just be cloudy. I don't think they see the sun up there. That's why they're all so pale. Sorry, anyone who lives in the Northern Hemisphere, or Europe specifically. But I think that I can't really be throwing stones either. I'm pretty pale.
I was going to say, man, like, dude, you're gonna throw a self burn in there because either your ring light's really bright or.
Yeah, exactly. Well, mate, I was out in the sun for 5 minutes on Sunday and got sunburnt, so that tells you everything you need to know. And back to New Zealand, though, I just think that while that 4-2 result is such an outlier, I don't know how that game was so defensive. I'm going to be honest and say that I didn't watch it at the time. This New Zealand side is very different. I think we look at even the guy who kicked the penalty goal was Sean Johnson, and he's not even in the team anymore because New Zealand have decided to go with a younger, different direction. Maybe I could be wrong. New Zealand have got the really young side. I actually think by the next World Cup, all of those players will be in their absolute prime. Dylan Brown will have about 6 years NRL experience as opposed to 2 or 3. Joey Manu will probably be playing fullback and have won 3 comps in a row because he's the best player on the face of the earth when he puts on the number 1 jersey. And the other thing that I find very interesting is the use of Brandon Smith. And this is something that I think we've talked about together at a Melbourne level, the way that they use him. And I think Melbourne might find this year with Harry Grant, if he gets an injury, who's coming in to replace Harry Grant? Harry Grant was out for quite a fair bit of time this year, and Brandon Smith stepped up and in a big way and played a lot of extra.
More 2021 for Harry Grant, really.
Yeah,
like he played 2021.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he played a lot of extra minutes, and for a guy like that to, come into this New Zealand side and have Jerry Marshall King as a backup, very, I'd say a very complete backup as well, especially with the last 12 months of watching Jerry Marshall King. He was Dogs Player of the Year. And I just think that New Zealand are going to have way too much class, and Fiji are going to have to, need more than 2 penalty goals to beat them on this day. It's just, it's not really feasible for me to see Fiji winning. But I admire your chutzpah and wish you well with Fiji
No,
trying
look,
to.
I'm tipping New Zealand as well, and New
Okay,
Zealand by a lot. But look, you got to make the counterpoint. And
we do, yeah.
that last game, everyone was saying the same thing. I remember before that game, I was saying the same thing. New Zealand will get it done. Don't worry about it. How they're going to go next week? Australia dusted Fiji the week after that, by the way. So it wasn't like Fiji was on some incredible form run at the time. It's just
Mhm.
New Zealand had a lapse. Different team. I mean, look, the thing I'll say about this team, Brandon Smith, Jerry Marshall King, are two incredible ball runners at hooker. Dylan Brown, Jerome Hughes are two of the best ball runners in the halves in the game. Joey Manu is just cooked. Like 300 meters, 20 tackle breaks isn't outside of the realm of possibilities for him in the first half. Like he's amazing. This whole roster is just built to run through brick walls. And you go to the forward pack, and it's just so tough. And like, all right, so here's what I'd say about them. I don't think it's the best forward pack in the World Cup, but it's the forward pack I would least like to run at. That's what I'll say.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're just hard hitters and elbows and swinging arms. And I'm looking at Jared Warrior-Hargreaves as I say this. Like, you get knocked out by this team, right? There's more explosive forward packs. There's younger forward packs. There's quicker forward packs. But there's not a forward pack that's going to beat you up like New Zealand will.
Yeah, there was a bit of speculation on how high they were raising their elbows as they were running, but that's neither here nor there. Fisher Harris for me is going from strength to strength. The more that he plays footy, we saw him at the under 20s level, and we knew that this bloke had the makings of greatness in him. And to watch him lead that or be a very dominant leader of that forward pack for Penrith over the last couple of years is a testament to why they're doing so well, and a big reason as to why I selected New Zealand to win this World Cup. I've got massive props on James Fisher-Harris. I think he's, potentially the best prop in the NRL. Would we go as far to say that?
I wouldn't, but
Okay.
he's good. He's good, but
you got a couple of guys at Para that I know you love. But
I think there are some other props who do more in attack than he does.
Okay.
Like, look, he's excellent. He's excellent, but I wouldn't even have him as the top middle forward at Penrith. I think Isaiah Yeo is the heart and soul of that forward pack. Fisher Harris plays his role really well. Really good player. I'd be taking. I mean, let's say middle forwards, right? Let's include locks who play like props in this, but I would take Junior Polo over Fisher Harris. I'd take like a Ruben Cotter, a Cam Murray, an Isaiah Yeo, a Joe Tarpanay, a Josh Papali'i.
I was going to say Tarpanay is the other guy that I'd probably throw in there just based on recent form.
I'd
but
take
I think
Tino probably.
Body of work over the last 3 years or so. The other thing that I love about James Fisher Harris is how often has he been injured over the last 3 years? He just runs. Yeah, he just runs hard and absolutely destroys blokes. And on the field, he's an absolute weapon, but he seems to do it really quietly. And you don't really think he's that assuming. And then he hits you and you're like, shit, that's James Fisher Harris. Why did I run at him?
Yep.
But yeah, Tarpanay is really the other guy for me. I think this front row is just so insurmountable for other teams. Like, you got the James Fisher Harris, who's just he's your rock in the center of this circle, and on top of that rock, you've got the dragon flying over.
We can hold them off.
You got the dragon flying over, and for me, for this forward pack, that's Tarpanay. He can really do anything. He could run hard. He could get into the ball playing, with some offloads. He's just effective wherever you put him. And it's amazing how long it took Ricky Stewart to give him some decent minutes because he
It was all
absolutely
about
killed
no.
it.
Ricky didn't know until Tarpanay's wife started tweeting him, and then he figured it out. But no, look, I agree. Like it's a rock solid forward pack. They're dangerous. And, Brandon Smith is just physically can play lock too. Like
Mm.
look, there's no question about them probably winning this game. Definitely being the rightful favourites in this game. If you had to throw a score prediction at this one, what are you going to go with?
It's tough to say because New Zealand haven't been absolutely tallying teams up in this World Cup. They had the perfect opportunity to do that against Jamaica, but I think they decided to rest a few players. For me, I see something like a 36-10 scoreline. 36 to the Kiwis, 10 to Fiji. But yeah, I think Fiji will put up a decent fight. They did it against Australia as well. Could get off to a hot start as well if the Kiwis don't take them seriously, which, with these top teams is always a possibility. So yeah, a hot start's going to be important for Fiji if they're going to get anywhere in this game.
Yep, totally agree. I mean, I agree with what you're saying too about the big scores. So Australia and England have about 190 points across the first 3 games. Then the next 2 teams there are at about 150, and you got Tonga and New Zealand. So they haven't been as explosive. Saying that, Jarom Hughes last game, like you said, 2 tries, 3 try assists, 18 tackle breaks there, tackle breaks, not line breaks. Wow.
That's 18 line. That's
yeah.
ridiculous.
What we haven't seen though is a big game from Dylan Brown. And Dylan Brown, I've watched him at Parramatta. He plays differently when the game's on the line, and it hasn't been on the line for New Zealand practically at all in this tournament. So he hasn't had to do too much. But potentially final switch on, Dylan Brown goes to his 15 runs a game kind of mode there and really lights it up. I think that's what happens. I think New Zealand say to themselves, last time a lot of us were there. A lot of us were embarrassed by Fiji. We turn up, we put them to the sword. We don't let them step up at all. I don't think Fiji score a point in this game. I think I'm going to go with, I don't think New Zealand will play the eccentric style in attack so much. I think they're really just going to try and play finals footy, regardless of what's in front of them. Fiji will throw a lot at them. I would go with something like a 38-0 type of score here. Just a controlled, very Penrith-esque kind of stronger team on the day who doesn't stretch themselves too much and secures the win.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right with your comments there. And I think that Fiji have had a pretty good World Cup to this point. They consistently make this level, but it's going to be a bit of a bridge too far. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning into New Zealand versus Fiji. We've got Tonga versus Samoa up next, the grudge match, and we're really looking forward to getting into that one. So, leave a like and leave a comment as well if you'd like to see any more videos. We're looking to make some great content, and stay tuned for Tonga versus Samoa.